Howdy. In the small Oklahoma and Texas towns that I grew up in, all the men wore a hat. And all the men wore boots. It's just what they did. It was not the exception, it was the norm. And I never remember anybody sitting me down as a young boy and saying, men wear boots or men wear hats, but I just knew it because I saw it modeled in front of me every single day. And to this day, I am never more comfortable than when I have this and these. It was the norm that was modeled for me. Brian and I want to talk with you today about the idea that love models, and that Jesus calls us as Christ followers to model his love to everyone around us. I want to say a big hello to those that are joining us up at Speedway, up at Lansing, on the internet. I'm Dan Southerland, one of the pastors. How about a hand for Brian Phipps, one of our pastors here? And Brian, you found out about 5 minutes before the first service that you were going to teach with me this morning.
Yep, that's about right.
Working with me is not dull, is it?
It's been the biggest pleasure of my life, actually.
Wow.
That was supposed to be funny, not meaningful or anything.
I took it as funny. I knew he was kidding. There was no doubt about that. We're in a series, guys, called, and I'm enjoying this idea that love is proven. That there are love proofs, that we can know for certain who loves us, and we can know for certain if we are exercising our love for Jesus. And the big idea for the series, write it in your notes. Everybody got notes? Time to write them in, is love shows up.
Yeah.
Love shows up. It doesn't offer to come by. It doesn't say, hey, if you need something. It shows up. For God so loved the world that he showed up. He literally came and died for us, paid for our sin. And we're having this fun time working our way through the Gospel of John this year, Brian. And in John 13, Jesus pretty much throws down the gauntlet to his followers and says, hey, boys, it's time to put up or shut up. It's time to prove your love for me. And there's 6 different ways that we're studying in this series. Go ahead.
Last week started with love serves, so go ahead and write that in the blank. Jesus modeled it. Said if you want to become great, become a servant. And then he modeled it for us, actually.
He did.
Pretty cool.
Today we're going to talk about love models. And everybody in this room is modeling for someone. There's some kid, there's some neighbor, there's somebody at work that's watching you, and they're judging the reality of Jesus by what they see in you. Love models. Next week.
That's a big challenge right there. Love endures is the third one. Love perseveres, it endures, it pushes through. It doesn't stop loving even though it's difficult to love
it doesn't
that
quit.
person.
Last week, the next week rather, the 4th week, love honors. Love honors. It seeks to honor the person that is loved. It seeks to say, how do I honor you? How do I exalt you? The next week.
Love follows. If you love someone, you let them lead on occasion.
Yeah. You're willing to follow them.
Willing to follow
and then that last week on Love Celebrates, we're going to literally talk about the idea that Scripture says you weep with those who weep and you rejoice with those who rejoice. You celebrate for them. This will be the day of our annual one service outside thing where we bring all our campuses together. This year we're calling it the KC Family Fest. You heard this referred to earlier. We hope that day to have more unchurched families on our campus here in this location at Lenexa than any other day in our history. So grab some of these door hangers on your way out. Give them out to your friends. We are going to celebrate that day. Now, what's the big idea? Write it in. We're going to say it another slightly different way. It is this. Love is an action, not an emotion. Wow, is American culture confused.
I was raised in the 80s, and I mean, you can't fight this feeling anymore was kind of what we learned. I mean, love is a heart tug, man. It's not, what did you just do?
Dude, I vomited in my mouth.
I mean, if you were raised like me in that thing, you know you're in love if you feel this thing. Well, that's just not reality. Love is an action. Love shows up. It doesn't feel up. It shows up. It's
Biblical love is proven by behavior. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Write it in. Love models. Love models. When you love someone, you model for them the love of Christ. When you care about someone, you show them the character of Christ. Sometimes that's a tough love. Sometimes that is a very gentle love, but it is love. I want to read the passage together. Last week, Jesus washed the disciples' feet, blew their minds. Now he's telling them why he did it. You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Would you underline example to follow? Jesus deliberately is doing something so they will model it. Do as I have done to you. I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them. We want to give you today 4 realities of how love and modeling work together. Listen for the one with your name on it. You ready? Brian, kick us off.
Number 1, if you'll write it in, love is caught more than it is taught. You've heard this before in a number of different contexts. Love is caught more than it is taught. You see it and you do it more than you catch the seminar and then do it. It's interesting. Jesus could have held a seminar on how to wash someone's feet. But instead of doing that, he just decided to wash their feet and demonstrate love and service for them so that they can carry that on. How many of you ladies here are saying at some point in your life, oh my gosh, I am just like my mother?
None who will admit it.
Yeah, it's the most horrible thing in the world to admit because you work so hard to not be them, but you realize you've caught more than she would have ever taught you. I watched my son do something similar, not that I'm his mother, but my son, one of the things I like to do is if there's somebody in a room at a party or something and they are not feeling included, I tend to be drawn to them to make sure that they feel welcomed. And I've watched my son, who's now 14, doing the very same thing at youth activities, and it's just kind of fun to see how this is true. Jesus says, since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet.
I really believe, guys, if Jesus had taught on foot washing the night before he was crucified, we wouldn't be talking about it 2,000 years later. But because he did it, and because his disciples caught the heart of it, we can catch it as well. Your kids are catching who you are. Your neighbors are catching who you are. Your fellow employees are catching who you are. Turn to your neighbor and say, I know who you are. Tell them.
I know who you are.
Scary thought. We need to know love is caught more than it's taught. Number 2, write this in if you would. Love must be lived out more than spoken out. Love must be lived out more than spoken out. Jesus said, I have given you an example to follow. To me, that may be the most powerful phrase in this entire chapter. I've given you an example to follow. It's not just I'm telling you to do this. It's not just I'm explaining how you do this. More importantly, it's I've shown you how to do this. Go and do what I have shown you to do. It is this idea that we've got to live it out. My grandparents went through a particularly tough stretch in their marriage, a chunk of years where things were just not good. And I would watch them when I would spend time with them in the summers and on holidays. Every day before my granddaddy went to work, he kissed my grandmother on the lips. They said to each other, I love you. And they started their day that way. And then they didn't get along or treat each other nicely again. Until the next morning when there'd be this verbal, I love you. It is so easy to say, I love you, and so hard to live it out. You can know who loves you not by who says it, but by who does it. Jesus is saying, guys, don't tell me how to wash feet. Wash feet. Don't tell me how to sacrifice. Sacrifice. Don't tell me how to be obedient. Be obedient. It's literally that Nike idea you mentioned earlier, Brian.
Yeah. Nike means victory. It's a Greek word. It means victory. And the victory is in doing the actual thing. Just Nike said, just do it. Don't say it, just do it.
Get out
and
there
there's victory in
and
that.
go for it. Now, why is it a big deal? I want to say it 3 different ways here. So write these in. Put a star by the one that grabs you. Why do you have to live it out more than speak it out? Because the teacher is the teaching. The teacher is the teaching. If you think the lesson you're teaching your kids is the thing you're talking about at the moment, you far underestimate your influence on your kids. They're learning how to be you. The teacher is the teaching. Can I prove it to you? Think of your favorite teacher in all of your years in school. Do you have them in mind? Your favorite teacher of all your years in school. Turn to your neighbor, tell them who it is. Quickly, your favorite teacher. Go. Favorite teacher. Got it? Sweet. Everybody look this way. I guarantee you nobody is thinking, Mrs. Nixon, she was my geometry teacher, and she taught me how to figure out the area of a triangle. Nobody's thinking that. Nobody's thinking it was Mr. Brown. He taught me English literature, and I now understand Chaucer. Nobody's thinking that. Nobody. You're thinking it was this teacher, and it's because of how they cared. It was this teacher, it's because of how they invested in my life. It was this teacher and the difference they made. The lesson is the teacher. That is the teaching. And we got to grab it and hang on to it. Another way to say it.
The leader is the lesson. The person who's leading is the lesson. It's not so much what the movement is that they're leading or the class is in the case of the teacher. It's the leader is the lesson. Dan, an example of this that I've had with you is I've been to conflict management courses before. I've been taught how to deal with conflict, and conflict is still tough, even if you know what to do. It's just really hard to do. And being able to watch you handle conflict and being in the room as you're dealing with stuff has taught me a whole lot about how a person postures themselves, the confidence they have in God as they're going in that. And I watched you do that, and it was way more valuable than the teaching that I'd had. Put them both together, and you can really learn to come.
That's cool. So you've learned from me.
I have.
Where's your hat?
Well, like you said, there's good things you learn from people, and not so good of things, and discernment is what's needed.
Let's write in the next one. My life lesson is the what I live. I want to do a teaching sometime, Brian, on what's your billboard say.
Yeah.
What's your billboard say? Because every Christ follower has a billboard in their life, and their life message is on it. Listen, church, it's probably not the message you think is on it. I mean, you want to know what your life message is? Ask a handful of friends to tell you, what do you hear from my life? Good, bad, and ugly. What do you hear from my life? I've got to know that the lesson is how I live. Look this way, guys. There'll be a day I won't be here. That's not a prediction. It's a reality. I hope I'm here a bunch of years. I am praying regularly for Jesus to let Kansas City be the last place that I put my boots on every morning. Love Kansas City, love Westside. But the reality is there's a day I'm not being the lead teaching pastor at Westside. And when I'm gone, what you're going to remember is not all the lessons I taught. It's who I was. That scares the bahooey out of me. And it ought to, but it is the reality. So first idea today, more is caught than is taught. Second idea, love must be lived out more than spoken out. Third idea.
Number 3, love means doing what Jesus does. Here's the fun part. We're talking about love proofs the whole series. Here's where Jesus proved that he is love. He's done all that he taught. He modeled it. So I love this. He says, do as I have done to you. I'd love to be able to say, kids, here's the deal. I've taught you a lot of stuff, but just be like me. If I could look at my kids and say, just be like me, that is the most profound thing I could ever offer to them. That's what Jesus says. And the first thing that we can do if we want to do what Jesus did, or does really, is that he forgives me, so I forgive others. Jesus forgives me, so I forgive others. I've been forgiven by him. I'll continue to be forgiven by him. And out of that forgiveness, I am able to let him forgive others through me. Now, you've probably got a comment on this. This is a passion of yours.
Well, it is a passion because I run into folks who say, I just can't forgive them. Wow, for real? God forgave you 1,000 times more than you're having to forgive them. Any day of the week. He puts up with more from me than anybody's ever dished out to me, and he forgives. And if I'm going to exemplify Jesus, here's how it works. Look this way, guys. His forgiveness pours into here, and if I receive it, it gets full enough that it spills out of me on everybody around, even the person that's hurt me the most. Jesus said some pretty serious things about not forgiving.
Very significant.
So it is a passion for me. Jesus forgives me, so I forgive others. Here's one. Jesus blesses me, so I bless others. Now, the minute you say bless in today's society, some Christ followers think, oh, you're talking about money, 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 money. If I give, Jesus will make me rich, rich, rich. Look this way. We don't believe that. We don't teach that. Why? Because Jesus didn't teach that. Jesus died broke. By that definition of wealth, Jesus was a failure, and he wasn't. So what does it mean that Jesus blesses me so we bless others? Listen up. I am stinking rich. You know how rich I am? I've got a wife that's put up with me for 37 years. That's called grace. I have 2 kids that love me despite the fact that I raised them. I have the 5 most rockin' grandkids in the world. I know you think yours are. You're wrong. I love where I live. I love my job. I love my church. I've got the best friends I have ever had, and I get to wear boots. I am rich. You want to show them your little bitty pea head?
Oh.
Now, the reality is he's got a normal size head, and mine is 8 3/8, which is called big. Smells pretty good, though.
Yeah, really. Let's move on to the next one.
I am rich, so it's easy for me to bless others if I realize God has blessed me. Brian.
Next one, Jesus serves me so I can serve others. Listen, this is present tense. This isn't past tense.
Yeah.
The work that Jesus is doing on my behalf did not stop a long time ago. He continues to guide me day to day. He warns me when I'm about ready to head the wrong way. He comforts me when I'm sad. He serves me. And if he can serve me, then I can serve others.
I love this next one. Jesus endures me.
So do a lot of
so
other
I can
people.
endure others. So do a lot of people is right. If you don't know what that means, here's the idea. Right in parentheses, puts up with. Jesus puts up with me. Now, guys, here's the deal. Everybody you love in your life and the folks you struggle to love drive you nuts at some moments. There is some moment where you're enduring them. There's some moment where you're putting up with them, and that thought goes in of, why am I putting up with them? Why am I doing this? And here's the answer, because Jesus puts up with me. Because he endures me. And if he's doing that for me, then I can do it for others. I love the next one.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite. Jesus enjoys me so I can enjoy others. That might be hard for you to get your head around, but you are the pinnacle of God's creation. And he made everything else so that he could make you and put you in here.
Yeah.
To help him rule his world and to help him be a part of that. It's an amazing thing that he enjoys us. I love being able to delight in my kids. I love, like I mentioned earlier with Sam, just to watch him take that initiative to make sure somebody's included is an enjoying time.
Yeah.
And he says, I enjoy you, you can enjoy others, and tell them about it.
You see him doing that, Sam doing that, you just go, that's my boy.
That's my boy.
I want you to know, guys, God is Italian. He looks at you and he says, that's my boy. That's my girl. I love them. I enjoy them. Now, if he's able to enjoy this, surely I can learn to enjoy this. That's the idea. We left a blank here for you to fill in. Because some of you going, oh man, there's a bunch of these I could put in, so make up your own. Jesus blanks me, so I blank others. What is it? Puts up with. What is it? Encourages. He encourages me, so I encourage others. He prays for me, which he does, so I pray for others. When we catch this idea that love means doing what Jesus does, not what he did, he's not dead and gone, what he does, then we're going to partner with him. Wow. That's when we'll understand the power of a love that models. Brian, this fourth one's a passion for yours.
Sure, yeah. Love means obeying what Jesus taught. Love means obeying what Jesus taught. Now that you know these things, he says, God will bless you for doing them. Now look where the blessing part comes in. It's not in the knowing. You went to the 45-minute seminar. God will bless you now that you know these things. No. Now that you know these things, God will bless you as you do them. The victory, as we mentioned earlier, the nikeo, the did or done, the just do it, the blessing comes when you do what he asks. Why? Because sometimes it's really hard to do what he asks, and as you, through his strength, do that obedient step that he gives you, he changes you from the inside out. That's the real blessing. Is he takes you and makes you into a different person. Through what? Through the practicum, not the seminar, the practicum of life when you do it, when you do that thing.
Now, there's some bad news and some good news here, and it matters in this area of modeling because what we do is contagious, so write it in. The bad news, rebellion is contagious. Rebellion is contagious. When you say, I don't care what God says, I'm not doing it. Wow. Hey, dads, look this way. Please don't do that to your children. They get their first impression of who God is from their dads. Moms, wow, you got to make up for dad. There's an assignment. Please, guys, let's not do this to our kids. When I have a rebellious spirit, a fist in my heart spirit toward God, you think my kids are going to have that same fist? You think my friends are going to have that same fist? This is why Scripture says, bad company corrupts good morals. Translation, you hang out with people with a fist in their heart, you're going to get a fist in your heart. Rebellion is contagious. But the good news, Brian, is so is obedience.
Obedience is contagious. Doing the right thing. It wins. Mentioned earlier a gal named Jen Hatmaker. She's a blogger, a mom out of Austin, Texas, has written a book recently called 7. And how many of you have read 7 so far? Probably
awesome
very
book.
few. Very few people have read 7. I'm pretty certain that in time, a good third of you will have read this book simply because it is what God is doing right now as far as obedience. And there's going to be a wave of doing the right thing that people don't even know they have the opportunity to do. But as story after story after story unfolds, more and more we'll see God's goodness happen through obedience. And it will be contagious more and more.
It will be. Here's another idea of why modeling is important. The bad news is hate is contagious. If you grew up in a home where certain kinds of people were hated, you've struggled with it. You've struggled with it. We pass our values and our beliefs and our opinions on whether we intend to or not. Hate is contagious. By the way, there's no room for hate in the kingdom of God. If we serve a God who loves everyone equally, then all I got to do is get me out of the way and my prejudices and let him love through me. Because the good news is love is contagious even more so. Hate's contagious? Yeah, that's bad. Love is more contagious. Scripture says it covers a multitude of sins. What's that mean? You can be a big mess, and if you love people, God will still use you. I qualify. I qualify on the big mess part, and I want to qualify on the big love part as well. So 4 ideas today, guys, of why modeling matters. Stay with me. We're going to pray together in a minute, but they are: love is caught more than it's taught. It's got to be lived out, not just spoken out. It means doing what Jesus does, and it particularly means obeying what Jesus taught. We're going to end in a bit of an unusual way. I want to give you a prayer that's got some fill-in-the-blanks in it. Why am I doing that? Because we hope that you'll go out this week and pray this prayer through the week. I believe it's a great modeling prayer. Here it is. Jesus, fill me with your love so fully that it overflows out of me and spills out on those around me. That it overflows out of me and spills out on those around me. I offer myself to you. Model your love for others in me. What a prayer. Jesus, fill me with your love so fully that it overflows out of me, spills out on those around me. I offer myself to you. Model your love for others in me. I'm going to ask for your prayers today. I'm having heart surgery tomorrow morning. Now, the good news is, if you're going to have heart surgery, it's the best kind to have. I'm having what's called an ablation. They do not cut your chest open and do all that stuff. They come up through the main arteries and work in your heart to burn off the extra electrical impulses. My heart issues are not plumbing. They're not blockages. They're electrical. Because of a particular birth defect I have, my heart doesn't fire correctly. I had this surgery 6 years ago, and it bought me 5.5 very improved years of heart health. They're hoping this one will do the same. Now, I'm telling you that, A, so you can pray, but B, so you can hear this second thing. We're all going to be dealing with heart issues this week. With somebody we're struggling to love. With somebody we're struggling to endure. With something God's given us to do, and the issue really is, do I love Jesus enough to obey him? I'm going to be praying for you this week. Jesus, fill us so full of your love that it spills out. We're yours. Model your love in us. I plan to see you next Sunday. God bless, church.